Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review of Fox and Hounds, released in 1940. It's the 309th in the series and it's directed by Tex Avery. You can find this beautiful new restoration on the Looney Tunes Collector's Vault Volume 1 Blu-ray set, and I will link below to that set. And funnily enough, I somehow reached up to this review exactly when this set came out, so beautiful timing. In the past, sometimes I'll release a review and then a few weeks later they'll announce a new restoration. Definitely annoying when it happens. Thankfully though, the timing worked out pretty well. The short is under copyright, so I can't show you the full thing here on YouTube. You're better off just buying that set that I just mentioned, but in case you haven't seen this one, it's fox hunting time and Willoughby is after a fox. He sees one, but since Willoughby isn't too bright, he keeps on getting tricked by the fox. And later on we get a bear involved too. And I'll certainly go through the short itself because story-wise there's not really much there, but this one seems to be more of a character type thing. But in terms of trivia, so this is the first short where Tex Avery does a parody of characters from Of Mice and Men. And that's of course where the title comes from. You got Fox and Hounds, Of Mice and Men. And that was originally a film that was released in 1939, that was produced by Hal Roach. It starred Burgess Meredith playing George and Lon Chaney playing Lenny, who's a rather dim-witted character. So pretty much, in case this is your first review, because I have covered this a few times actually, because there's quite a few shorts that deal with that, but for those who are new, all those times you hear the saying, "Which way did he go, George?" or "Tell me about the rabbits, George," it comes from that. And much like a lot of radio references at the time that were using Looney Tunes, if you ask people where that saying originated, people will think, oh, it was just written for the shorts themselves, when no, a lot of the time it will just be a parody that the Looney Tunes writers would use in their own shorts. And people at the time would have watched it in the cinema or theatre, depending on your part of the world, and go, oh yeah, that's from such and such radio show, or it's from such and such movie. So in this case, when it comes to the whole "which way did he go, George?", which I'm sure you've heard countless times when watching these Looney Tunes shorts, well, that's where it all comes from. And other directors would do their own thing with this idea of a dim-witted character. For example, McKimson later on would do his own version called Benny instead of Lenny in Cat Tales for Two. Art Davis will do a few shorts where you have these really dopey cat characters like in Do Re Meow, which is my favourite Looney Tunes short, by the way. But Tex Avery would do another short with Willoughby, like a dopey, dim-witted dog. But when he went to MGM, he would even have a series of shorts starring George and Junior. So you have the tall character that's dim-witted and the short, smarter character, similar to the idea of Mice and Men. And that started with Henpecked Hobos in 1946. From what I've been reading, Avery had said that Of Mice and Men was the funniest thing he had seen, which is interesting because the movie is actually quite dark. I mean, it's not without its humor or anything, but it's definitely something that's rather serious. So he must have said it was funny on a character point of view, thinking, oh yeah, I can use this idea, but just have some funny animated characters out of it, where you would have a large, stupid character sounding dopey alongside a shorter, smarter character. Unfortunately, it does kind of mean, at least for me anyway, the film is almost ruined, because when you've seen all the parodies beforehand, and then when you finally watch where it comes from, you can't help but chuckle because you're just thinking of the Looney Tunes stuff beforehand, which I know is unfair, because it's a very well-made, competent film. It's also like when I watched King Kong, the original one, finally for the first time, and all I could think of was that Simpsons Halloween episode, King Homer, where they actually parody a lot of the shots within. I mean, King Kong's a great film, but yeah, I'd say The Simpsons just about ruined that one for me, but anyway. So here, the voice of Willoughby is actually by Tex Avery himself, and he's no stranger to voice acting. He's done it quite a few times, and he'll continue to do so when he goes over to MGM. While his imitation of the Lenny character isn't exactly perfect, he still does a well enough job here. You've got Mel Blanc, he does the fox, and a lot of folks will, when listening to the fox, will think, hang on, he sounds like Bugs Bunny. Why is he doing the Bugs Bunny voice? Just to put this in perspective, this came out in 1940, and before that there was only one Bugs Bunny short, which was A Wild Hare, directed by Tex Avery. And no one thought Bugs was going to be this major breakout star. That happened afterwards, so at the time, it's like, well, we just need a smart aleck fox character, and Mel was like, all right, I'll do this voice, and he did the voice, which actually suits the character. There's nothing certainly wrong with it. It's only now, after Bugs has become a breakout character, we look back and it seems as though he's just copying the same voice, when in fact, they were just doing whatever voice was suitable for the character, and that's pretty much it. But with this short, what we're going to do is go through the short from start to finish and note any observations I have. But I have to say, watching this restoration, finally we can see this short as it's meant to be seen. Unfortunately, the original titles are not being put back. They do exist somewhere, but they haven't been made available yet, so that's rather unfortunate. But hey, at least the main cartoon has been restored, and to me that's the most important thing. We can always add the titles later if they do become available. But I'm so used to watching this short in a washed out Laserdisc print that always looked rather on the dull side, and just to see it looking like this is absolutely refreshing. And even a few other shorts that were released in 1940 that haven't been restored yet. This is the level you would expect once those do get restored, and I can't wait to see them. But we start off with this beautiful scenery here, setting everything up perfectly that, hey, we're going to have a fox hunt happening. Just the atmosphere here is breathtaking. I wonder if this is the English countryside. I would assume so, because they do a lot of fox hunting there, which I should point out is rather gruesome, so definitely don't look into fox hunting itself. They do it a lot in animated shorts, but you don't want to see the real thing. It's rather grotesque in my opinion. In any case, we do hear the William Tell Overture, which sets the mood up nicely as well, along with the nice visuals. And we even see the main fox hunter blowing the bugle, and that bit would have been rotoscoped. As where it was rotoscoped from, I'm honestly not sure. I've looked into it, I can't seem to find an answer to it. But the beginning minute just looks like an epic animated production, even on par with what Disney were doing at the time. I mean, if Avery did a whole movie with this level of quality, you can only imagine how stunning that would be. But that's not Avery's game. He's all about the gags. And sure enough, we meet Willoughby. So here is more or less the Lenny character from the Of Mice and Men story. I guess he's slept in, and he starts off by saying the famous bit from Of Mice and Men.
Which way did they go? Which way did they go? Where did the dogs go? Which way did they go?
And sure enough, he runs off in search of a fox. And that run cycle by Willoughby here is fantastic. So he's running along, and we see that it goes from dawn to the middle of the day. And again, this restoration pops even when we go from that dawn sequence to the rest of it. You do have to wonder how long he's been running for, but in any case, he says,
I'm the guy that's gonna catch the fox, because I know every tree in this forest, every single tree.
And we get a nice little gag where he smashes right into the tree, which, by the way, that's a great one to slow-mo if you have the chance to do so. But what's great about the character here is that he's really dim-witted, but it's also reflective into his reaction time to whatever's going on. So he hits the tree, but he doesn't respond straight away. He just has to think for a moment, and then he responds saying, "There's one now." Sure enough, everything's all set up. We get a wonderful introduction of the Willoughby character, that he's going to be this dopey, dim-witted character throughout the rest of the short. So in the next shot, Willoughby is sniffing around, and he comes across the fox. So this, again, let's do another comparison to A Wild Hare, because A Wild Hare features the wonderful scenes of Elmer and Bugs, where Elmer is quite dopey, doesn't even know what a rabbit is. Here, it's a similar thing, except that this dog is even more dopier than Elmer, and they do a similar line exchange where this dog doesn't realize he's actually talking to a fox. There's nothing wrong with repeating gags and ideas. It happened all the time in Looney Tunes and animated short history, but it's just interesting to note that this happened not too far from when A Wild Hare was released. So Willoughby snips up the fox. Willoughby then introduces himself, and the fox says,
But my name is Willoughby.
My name's George.
Glad to know you, George.
So another reference to Of Mice and Men. So much wonderful animation of Willoughby shaking his hand, and George being this calm, cool, collected fox character, which again is going to be pretty similar to what Bugs Bunny will end up becoming. And we even get a repeated exchange where in A Wild Hare, Elmer will say he's looking for a rabbit, and Bugs describes what a rabbit is. So the fox does the same here. So he's about my size, he's got a tail, and Willoughby gets all excited, starts shaking George in excitement, and George gives him directions and runs off. Of course, planting a kiss on George first, which I love that reaction shot of George after he gets kissed.
Go down to that old tree stump and turn right until you come to a rail fence. You'll find him right on the other side. You can't miss him.
Thanks a lot, George. Thanks a lot.
we see the first gag of 3 that is exactly the same but plays out a little bit differently. So we see once again that beautiful run cycle. He goes around the corner and he ends up falling down a cliffside.
You know, that was the fox.
And once again, Willoughby takes a while to figure out that, yeah, he's been tricked, and that it was actually the fox that tricked him. So Willoughby climbs up and he spots the fox and runs to him, but not before the fox ends up putting a small dog costume. So clearly the fox just wants to mess with him, right? But this bit, surely Avery must have had it in the back of his mind when he made the George and Junior shorts in terms of the size difference, where you have the 2 characters with different sizes, and even just the attitude of George in that dog costume, just the way the eyes move, even though, okay, it's a costume, whatever, you go with it. He must have had that in the back of his mind. But man, I love Willoughby, just how he's so dim-witted that he's looking for the fox who's clearly just gone inside a costume like that. Willoughby is trying to introduce himself, but George already answers for him. But the way George responds, "My name is George," and then breaks the fourth wall saying, "Here we go again," inviting the audience into more shenanigans. Just the attitude of his face is hilarious.
My name's,
Willoughby.
Yeah, Willoughby, that's it.
My name's George. Here we go again.
And we get a repeat of what happened before. So George gives Willoughby directions, Willoughby follows those directions and ends up falling down once again, and takes him a little while to realize, oh great, I got fooled again. And the animation's repeated as well, which, hey, if you're going to repeat animation, you might as well do it this way, right? Because it looks basically the same. So Willoughby climbs up and sees George, still as a dog, just chilling away, smoking a cigarette. I wonder if this bit was cut for TV or censored in any way, because, of course, smoking on TV was a massive no-no when it came to repurposed children's entertainment. These were originally released for adults, kids could watch them, and they did, but later on they were repurposed as children's entertainment for Saturday mornings. So George puts out his cigarette and says,
Oh, well. Come on, Willoughby. Let's go get your fox.
but I don't know if George would have planned this or not, but whatever, I think it's worked out for him in the end. But he goes inside a narrow log and ends up losing the costume. So George runs away, and Willoughby realizes, wait a minute, after thinking about it for a while, of course, says, oh, look, there's the fox, George, let's go after the fox, grabs the costume, still not realizing that, hey, it was a costume, until it finally dawns on him, and he even breaks the fourth wall to confirm that with the audience.
You know, George was spoofing us. He was the fox all the time. But you just wait, I'll get him now.
So we got 2 repeated sequences there. So what does Avery do to mix things up? We get a bear in this picture. And by the way, if you look at this bear, it's a very similar design to Wabbit That's why a lot of folks, including myself, believe that Tex Avery had a much bigger involvement in that short than what Clamper did, who was the credited director. In any case, both George and Willoughby disturb the bear's sleep, the fox goes into a foxhole, and Willoughby ends up closing him in. But I like the differences in animation here of each character stopping to turn around and going towards where that hole is. So you got the fox turning around in one way, but with Willoughby, it seems like he's a little bit more out of control when he's trying to stop himself to turn around. It's the subtle things like that why I love these Tex Avery shorts. Avery would obsess even over frames of animation to make sure everything is timed just right, and this is a great example of that. So Willoughby closes George in, and he's all excited that he's done a good thing. He sees the bear looking all confused, and love the animation of the skin being pulled, but again, it takes a while for anything to sink in to Willoughby as he realizes that it's a bear. And it's so fast, you just see little bits of smoke in the air, which looks so much better now that it's been restored, because before, when it was all faded, you might have missed the actual effect. So the bear's looking all confused, and Willoughby's now up a tree being attacked by this bear. So we've got some tension here. Willoughby's in actual danger. So the fox comes out, and I guess he has some sympathy for Willoughby. He's thinking, okay, this has now gone too far. Yes, I was messing with him, but I certainly don't want him dead. I definitely wouldn't mind messing with him more later on. So the fox does the good old hot foot. And this was definitely something that was done a lot as a gag. And if you watch those Schlesinger Christmas party videos, there was even a sequence where there was a lot of hot foots being done a lot of the feet of the staff members there. So in a beautiful little close-up with the hands, by the way, gets a match, creeps up, tells the audience to shush by breaking the fourth wall yet again, and he ends up lighting the foot. And what's interesting about that shot, and you can see him so much better now that it's been restored, so that foot is now part of the background in this case, but it looks kind of like a moccasin or a slipper or something. It's just the way it's done. It's kind of weird, but still looks so much better now that it's not so overly dark like I've always seen this short. So George creeps away with that beautiful tiptoeing animation and looks on as we gradually build up the tension with some nice quick cutting between George, Willoughby, and the bear. And then when finally that match hits, we see, I guess, the bear's nervous system, I'm assuming that's what it is, causes the bear to react, and he shoots off like a rocket. And that scream by the bear is also done by Mel Blanc. So we see that Willoughby is all thankful to the fox. You know, I wasn't scared of that bear, George, and ends up fainting.
Not a bit of scared.
Now, they could have ended the short here, but I guess Avery really wanted to do a nice little rule of three. So once again, we get a repeat of the dawn bugling for another day of fox hunting, and we see that Willoughby is out on the hunt again, but then he goes back and gets George, who apparently now lives in the same place as Willoughby, and he asks, which way did they go, George? So we get a nice rule of three where George now tricks Willoughby with the exact same lines. We even get a kiss by Willoughby again, repeated animation once again of Willoughby with that ridiculous run cycle and falls off the cliff. But we get a nice little punchline with this, as in he doesn't actually get himself hurt. No, I ain't so dumb. Because he's prepared things beforehand, I guess. I wonder where he got all those mattresses from. But that's when we end right there. Now, in watching this short, and again, watching it, it feels like I'm watching it for the first time, if I'm being completely honest, with this brand new restoration. The differences are incredible, and this is one of the best examples because of how awful those Laserdisc prints were. I think the only bigger jump in quality we're ever going to get from now will be something like those shorts from the Buddy series, where all of them are just about on 5th generation VHS tapes. But either way, it's finally restored. And what do I think of this one? It's a nice one. It's not one of my favorites of Avery's output during the Warner Brothers era, but it's nice enough. It's got a wonderful rule of three in there. You can't help but love Willoughby in this. The Fox character's fine as the opponent / friend later on, and it's funny. I quite like it. Beautifully animated, and looks gorgeous, especially at the very beginning of it. So this one gets 8 out of 10 for me, and yeah, it's also the last of Tex Avery shorts in 1940, so he's only got one more year to go, and he's over at MGM. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
You know, I ain't so dumb.